Here's Donald Trump getting absolutely cooked by the courts, though, which is pretty funny.
To new reporting from my colleague Caitlin Collins as he struggles to meet a Monday deadline to come up with nearly $500 million to cover the judgment against him in his New York fraud case. And just this morning, New York Attorney General Letitia James told a judge that he should ignore Trump's claim that he can't find an insurance company to help him pay. CNN's Kara Scannell joins me live from New York. Kara.
Yeah, Dana, so this new filing from the New York Attorney General's office, they're saying to the judge that Trump is making this claim that he has, tried to get a bond underwritten by 30 underwriters, that it's nearly impossible to get done. They're saying that the judge should ignore it. It's essentially too late, they say, for him to make this argument. But the Attorney General's office says if they are going to consider it, they want the appeals court to ask some more questions. Essentially, they want to know what efforts Trump actually made to get a bond. What were the terms that were put forward? Trying to get to the bottom of, did Trump just not like the terms, or was he really unable to get it? They also urged the appeals court to discount the testimony of some of the insurance broker and Trump's legal officer who, had said that they made these efforts, that no one would underwrite the bond because they wouldn't underwrite it based on real estate. Trump's lawyers are saying that maybe Trump should try to pool and get a number of underwriters to come together to underwrite a $500 million bond. They also suggested that Trump should have put up some of his properties with the court to secure this judgment. But this is still, as the clock is ticking, the ball is in the hands of the appeals court panel. They have to decide if they're going to grant Trump's motion to either allow him to post a bond that's less than $500 million or to say he doesn't have to post one until the appeal of this whole case plays out. Now, the deadline for Trump to come up with the bond is Monday, and if he doesn't, that's when the New York Attorney General's office can begin to try to enforce this judgment. That means they can try to seize bank accounts, they can try to seize some properties, they can start taking steps to move forward to enforce this judgment. Dana?
Kara, thank you so much for that. I want to bring in Bill Cohan of Puck, who has reported extensively on this. Nice to see you, Bill. Let's start with what Kara was just talking about, that Trump's attorneys say that he's tried very hard to get a bond, and it's not possible. Can you break down why he couldn't get one?
Well, Dana, thank you for having me. He can't really get one because he's not a good credit risk, Dana. He hasn't been a good credit risk for a very long time.
Yeah.
During the 90s, 6 or so of his companies went bankrupt. So that is something that annoys creditors across Wall Street who have long memories. And he's also been known to not pay contractors and subcontractors and lawyers. So people remember that. And so when he's seeking a bond for more than $500 million, the risk of him paying, of him losing his appeals or his judgment against him falls to those bond issuers, not to him. And then they'd have to go.
Bro is the only one who lost money operating a casino, bro. The house always wins, except for when the house is the Trump house, okay? That's how bad he is at business.
After him, if they don't pay, if he doesn't pay them. So, they don't want to take that risk. Why should they? Why should anybody take that risk at the moment? He's proven himself to be a very risky credit risk.
Okay, so let's take getting a bond off the table then. And let's look at his assets, because that is another way that he can pay this $500 billion judgment. And some of the assets that we're talking about, and we'll give some of what we think are their worth, the Avenue of Americas, $500 million, 40 Wall Street, $270 million, California Street, which is in San Francisco, $125 million. Now, some of these he owns, some of these he has an investment in, so we can talk about that. And then also Mar-a-Lago, of course, $240 million, which I believe he owns outright. The Doral Golf Course, which he loves, $305 million, and the famous Trump Tower penthouse, which is apparently worth about $40 million. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, the two properties, the one on the Avenue of the Americas, the one in San Francisco, are owned by Vornado, a different company. He owns a minority stake in those. I don't think he's going to have much luck with that minority stake, using that as collateral for a bond. you know, so I think also those prices are probably pretty high for both of those that you put on the screen. You know, in his deposition, as you'll remember, in April of last year, in this case, he said he had 400 million in cash and growing every day. That apparently doesn't seem to be the case, because if he had that kind of cash, he'd be using that as collateral. We're also talking about, you know, a pretty distressed market for commercial real estate in Manhattan these days. And so you know, how quickly he can get the money.
That's another one. That's another part of the problem, is that like the one fucking type of real estate that is like in a state of disarray is commercial real estate, due to like all the work from homers, which is pretty funny. They're pocket watching hard. No, I love this. I personally love this because it's like the most, like, this is the type of shit that he hates the most, because he's like objectively a broke boy in many respects. Like, call him a racist all day, every day. He wears that shit on his sleeve. But call him a broke boy, and oh my God, all of a sudden, that's like, that's not good.
If you were have to sell these buildings, people would want to take advantage of that. It'd be a distressed sale. They'd try to take advantage. We also don't know how much leverage, how much debt is already on some of these buildings, because, you know, he's a private company. He doesn't have to disclose that. Although some of that does get out. I think he has got debt and mortgages on all of these properties. So, you know, what is the equity value of these things? That's another thing that, you know, the bonders are going to look for. You know, if you sum it all up, Dana, I'm thinking at this point he really isn't going to have much choice but to file for personal bankruptcy. And I know that's something he doesn't want to do, and has said he doesn't want to do, but it would stay this judgment. It would throw it all into bankruptcy court, and that would buy him the time that he so desperately needs in this situation.
You think that's the most likely scenario, that he files for bankruptcy? That would be a big deal for a presidential candidate of any kind, but particularly one who is running on his prowess as a business person.
Yes, of course, but I think he's the master spinner, right? So he'll be able to spin that if it happens. I'm sure he'll spin that in a way that'll appeal to his backers.
No question.
But I don't really see that he has any other choice at this point. I don't see who's going to give him this money.
Let me just ask you about that before I let you go, because
Bro's got 6 of them under his belt. It's time for a 7th, you know? It's time for a 7th, baby. Would this affect a single vote? Probably not. I mean, like I said, he has 6 of them already under his belt. So, considering that didn't work, and people still think he's a businessman and like wanted to vote for him because he knows business, I don't think it would change that much. I know how he's going to spin it. Are you ready? You already know his PR people are about to drop the best counter explanation of all time? Yeah. I am his PR person. When I came down those golden escalators in 2016, I knew the risks associated with being your president. I knew that they would come after me. And the Democrats never stopped coming after me. And they weren't coming after me at all. They were coming after you. I was just standing in the way. And here we have yet another instance where the corrupt Democratic Party, doing a banana republic, ruining America, ruining the economy, and personally in the most malicious way possible, using our once very important criminal justice system against those who they declare as unwanted. It's because they work with China, they hate America, they hate you for being an American, they want China to win, they know I'll destroy China, so they're... By the way, I'm using coherent terms and I'm not doing the Trump voice. I'm just telling you what his speech writers are going to, or his PR people are going to use this to spin it. They're going to say that he has said time and time again that he has been under attack by the Democratic administration, by the deep state, because he loves America, because he defends Americans, and now he's been bankrupted. Like, all this money has been stolen from him because he is your leader. He has America's best interest in mind. He's not doing this for personal gain. As a matter of fact, he'd be much better off if he wasn't president at all. He's doing this for some other higher purpose. And that is to save America. So they can't hurt him as long as America's got his back. As long as people vote for him, they can't hurt him at all. Because he's got truth on his side. He's got justice on his side. He has a higher purpose.
It is, I guess, possible for him to get money from an outside investor or backer. He could get it from another billionaire that's more liquid. He could potentially get it from a foreign national, but then that, of course, brings in other problems when it comes to his presidential campaign and campaign finance laws.
Right, and I think even if you were to get the money from another billionaire who would be, a bit crazy to do it, but it could happen, that might run afoul of federal election laws as well. That would be a very big donation to a presidential candidate.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to take that off the list. Thanks for breaking it down. Appreciate it, Bill.
Thank you.
Tara, I want to bring you on this because we were having a really interesting conversation earlier in the 5 a.m.
Yeah, right. Don't take that off the list at all. As a matter of fact, I would not take that off the list at all. What are we going to do? We don't have a criminal justice system that actually goes after billionaires. I mean, think about it. We're literally currently talking about a dude who is very much not a billionaire that the criminal justice system is going after. They're not cooking Trump because he's no longer president. They're cooking Trump because he's a broke boy. If he was a real one, if he was actually rich, he wouldn't run into these issues. He wouldn't have to fucking hire Alina Habba, the RGB lawyer with her fucking gaming laptop. He'd have a crackpot legal team. Getting him out of this shit.
Hour about just how important the money is. Let's show. This was Alina Habba was on Fox News earlier in the week, and she was asked about, does Donald Trump have enough money to pay his bond? Here's what she claimed.
Does Donald Trump have that kind of money sitting around?
Yes. I mean, he does. Of course, he has money. He's a billionaire. We know that.
They know by looking at his statements of financial condition that this guy is worth a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars.
So, Tara, with all due respect, if that were true, I think he'd be able to pay $500 million in bond.
Right.
But money is really driving everything, is my understanding, based on your reporting. What's going on with the Trump team right now?
Well, Donald Trump is just feeling the cash crunch. He's in a very vulnerable position compared to Joe Biden, who's going to outraise him. Right now, he's about $50 million behind the DNC and the Joe Biden campaign. So he's sort of looking at everyone who comes through Mar-a-Lago, kind of currying favor, trying to get in a cabinet position, an administration posting, even the vice presidency, as someone who can possibly raise him cash or bring in a white whale donor that he needs. And when I mean white whale donors, I mean people like Sheldon Adelson, who gave him $100 million in 2016, because he's going to need like 10 of these. We know that both candidates.
Well, Sheldon's dead, so GG's. Rest in peace, Sheldon Adelson.
Are going to have to spend about $1 billion each, and probably what will be the most expensive election in terms of advertising in our lifetime. So it's not just about, like, I don't think it says, based on my reporting, when he's looking at people, he's not really thinking about, like, it's not a voter play per se, as much, or even, you know, I guess a demographic play in a lot of ways. It's really a donor play. Like, yes, he looks at Tim Scott and says maybe he can bring over African-American voters. Maybe he can bring over some swing voting white women in the suburbs. But more than that, he's thinking to himself, can he get Larry Ellison to write me a $100 million check? Because Larry Ellison wrote him a $30 million check back in the Senate.
Wrote Tim Scott one, yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, he's trying to bring in big hitters like John Polson, a hedge fund billionaire who wants a Treasury Secretary position. Polson holds parties for him, fundraisers in Palm Beach, and he can bring in all his friends. So, you know, Trump is playing footsie with all these people, and what can he dangle? Appointments. It's typically used to be ambassadorships, which you brought up off air before, but it can be as much anything as like the vice presidency. I mean, you have your own donor base. Can you bring them along? And I think personally, based on my reporting, Trump has the evangelical base. He's got his MAGA people. What he really needs is money. And the other issue, obviously, is abortion. That's something that's on his mind.
The true folks love to point out, of course, that Hillary Clinton outraised them in 2016, and they still want to defeat her. The equation is entirely different. He was running as a purely insurgent candidate at the point, new to the scene. The money game, I think, matters more now probably than it did back in 2016 for Donald.